So welcome, very lovely to be with you. So next week, next Sunday, I will be resuming the meetings over our house here in Virginia at 3 o'clock. And I will be then doing the online meeting at, did we say 4 or 5 o'clock, Dal? You remember? Well, I will announce it so that the satsang will be live and then online. So it'll be like a continuous. Did we say 3 o'clock? Right, and then
at 4 o'clock
and at 4 o'clock the online. Okay,
yeah.
okay. So
Sunday.
the Sunday, right? I will be announcing that so that next week there will be folks present here simultaneously with being online. So Ananda, I see that you have a question. Let me read it. Hi, Magdi. I'm curious about how you experience your own life relatively personally. In particular, do you feel that your expression in this world is now primarily one of helping others in the process of self-recognition? Can you describe your relationship with the daily enjoyments of life, taking a walk or having morning coffee, for example? You know about the coffee, yeah? Has looking forward to upcoming adventures and enjoyments fallen away pretty much? Not trying to put any words in your mouth, but I'm just indicating an area of interest to me. And I wonder if these questions even relate to who you feel understand yourself to be. Probably this question is best asked to Tara. She experiences my life more than I experience my own. But yes, so yes, primarily, you say, do you feel that your expression in this world is now primarily one of helping others in the process of self-recognition? Yes, I would say that is true, except that I don't have an image of myself as a helper. I don't have an image of myself as a teacher or an image of myself as somebody who knows, or image of others who do not know. That's not there. I'm aware that there is ignorance, that there is identification, that there is unhappiness, and I'm aware that there is happiness as well. And so I speak to my experience. I speak my experience of what is the path to happiness, to the freedom that we are. So yes, that's well, in the same time, you know, I have been up to, hopefully it will come to an end soon, I mean, or significant change soon. I've been, you know, busy as well in life, engaged in working, paying the mortgage and taking care of the body, mind, the necessities. That's been also, and that's hopefully coming to to an end very soon.
Well, that's nice to hear. You a comfortable retirement. Looks like it's not often.
Yes, less yeah, activities, and then it's been going on. So you say also, can you describe your relationship with the daily enjoyments of life, taking a walk or having morning coffee, for example? So I would say that I enjoy. It may sound a little bit wild and unreal for some, but I enjoy everything. Well, there are some difficult people sometimes in my work relationships, and but that's over the years has been becoming less and less, almost coming to very, very, very low level, because I have not been nourishing these relationships, these unhappy relationships. But sometimes you don't know ahead of time.
Yeah,
you make a deal with somebody and they end up, later on to show different colors, or their anxieties show up, or their fears, and you become their therapist, and that's not what I'm interested in. But that's no longer much part of my life, because all these work relationships are sort of dropping, are coming to an end.
This just another more finely tuned question kind of comes up. Is most people that I know are thinking, if I could really be in the now, I would enjoy everything. Kind of like you said, I actually enjoy everything. And
I have a different interpretation about that.
Okay.
If you are in the now, you are still somebody or something. So I look at the now not as a moment in time, not as a zero moment in time. The true now is eternity. The true time, if you want to use that word, is eternity of the self, eternity of consciousness. If you're trying to be in the now, then what is it? What is it that is trying to be in the now? What is it that is in the now? What is it? For example, like right now, say, what is it that's in the now?
I guess you could say eternity. I don't know what else to say. Yeah. It is.
And what's the now, really? I mean, if you think at the now, how do we define the now? But I'm not saying there is no now. I'm just asking, how do you define it?
I guess mainly not being caught up in futurizing and worries about the past.
Right. If you're not, when you're not caught up in the thoughts about you in time and space,
right,
the now is peace. Right. Meaning the mind is at peace. It's not preoccupied. It's not worried. It's not concerned. It's not trying to do anything. That's peace, right?
Sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it to me.
So in peace, happiness is more present.
Yeah, peace and happiness. Peace and happiness and freedom. They're one together. They're one.
Yes.
So yeah, you could say that now is peace. Yes, and peace is consciousness, is truth, beauty, love, freedom, peace. All these are synonyms of, they're like facets, facets of the one diamond. They're like different facets of the one reality.
Yeah.
So yes, that I would agree with. That now is peace, is freedom, is beauty, is love. Right, but there is no one in it. It's more an absence of someone concerned, because the concerns about tomorrow or about yesterday relate to someone, right? To somebody,
Right.
an image or identity or some feelings, some feelings that I want them to be better, or I want to maintain them, or I want them to repeat themselves, right?
Yes.
So when there is an absence of worry or concern about tomorrow or yesterday, there aren't these images. There is just the peace, just the beauty, just the love. Like right now, for example. Right now is a good example of the now, because, well, my experience is that there is no concern, no worry, no looking for anything. We're just enjoying this conversation.
I want to bring out something. So I have an adventure coming up. I'm going with my younger brother to a place called Big Bend National Park for hiking, and it's a beautiful place. I've never been there, and he's been many times. He lives in Texas. It's on the Rio Grande, West Texas. So I've been busy with work, quite busy. So that's one reason I haven't thought much about that, even though it's set up to happen. But now that I've had my last work day, and I'm leaving in a couple days for this adventure. So I started thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be beautiful. What's it going to be like? The canyons, the river.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say whether or not it's relating. Well, I have to admit to myself, it's relating to, I'm going to enjoy it. Or, I'm expecting to enjoy it, something like that.
Why not? I mean, that's nice.
Well, I mean, I don't need to be neo-Advaita about it, but I'm always looking to where I'm taking myself as something or undefined.
I would say that, there are images that arise about being on that hike and beautiful streams, or just hanging out with your brother, whatever, or sitting by the fire at night. There are images maybe from past hikes you did, or past times you spent with your brother that you enjoyed, and so these images arise. I think what matters is that when you go on the hike, that you're enjoying whatever is happening. Maybe it will rain. I don't know. Maybe you end up going to a motel and having a good time together. Bonding around some conversations.
And he's a guitar player, so that's always a good thing.
Right. So as long as when you are living, whatever is unfolding, and there is a tendency to come and judge it or regret, or it's not meeting my expectation, that you don't get into that, because that's the unhappiness, you see. So you plan and you have images about it and so on, but it may go totally different direction.
Right.
And it's okay, because your happiness doesn't depend on that, you see. Your happiness doesn't depend on anything, you see. But as soon as your happiness depends on how the time with your brother is going to be, you have to live it and say. You have to live it and see. You can follow.
Yes, yes.
But what I'm saying is that right now, these images that you have are okay. It's okay. I feel that if they're making you unhappy, it's something else. But
no, and something that I really liked from our previous conversations that I really got with talking with you is, it's not exactly witnessing, but it's just stepping back, or just not being, as things happen, not being, I don't know. It's almost like a clutch, leaving the clutch in neutral and not grabbing on when something changes out there.
Right. You have to see how it's unfolding, and it's unfolding in the moment. In the moment, you start regretting or being disappointed. Then you can watch that. You can see that tendency to hold your happiness victim of your thoughts, you see. You could see that.
Yes.
Well, hopefully you could see that, and then you in seeing that, there is an effect of seeing. The wisdom of awareness, you see. Not that you have to do something, you just see it. You see, aha, okay, that your happiness is captive, you see.
Yes, and then I have I'm sorry. I have a little more that I wrote, and now I'm putting it up.
Oh, okay. Did I finish?
Well, actually, you could address my last thought. I wonder if these questions even relate to who you feel or understand yourself to be. You kind of answered that right off when you said, ask Tara. It's not really, you know what I mean? It's not really.
It may sound very odd for some people, but I don't consider myself. So I don't consider myself. This does not mean I ignore myself, or I just like having this conversation, you see. So there is a question, we speak, there is hunger, we cook. Tara needs some help with something, I help her. I need help with something, I ask for help. You don't need to have any image of yourself to live, to be happy.
Oh,
you don't need to be considering yourself anything, you see. When you consider yourself something, no matter how elaborate or how beautiful the image is, there is a trap in that, because thank you, Haripti. A comment, okay, KFT. So you can be free of images, free of any thoughts about yourself or about others, and be engaged, fully engaged in what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can understand that.
Right.
That's beautiful.
So you also write, the timeless self-nature never changes. Yes, never changes. But do you feel that you experience shifts in your understanding or overall comprehension or involvement with life or the world? Yes, in the world, there are obvious shifts in understanding. For example, I may, in my work, I may have some understanding about some relationship between my employees, or relationship between the different partners for whom I'm working, and then I get some new information will come to me about my work, or about relationships between various parties.
No, so what you're describing is very pragmatic, and sort of hands-on.
Yes.
Understandings and things. But I guess what I'm getting at is a more back, where you go, oh, like something.
I understand. There comes a point in your contemplation where the transparency of being, the wholeness of being, the universal self gets established as your very living self, as your experience. And when that experience is settled in your being, there are no more external realm in your life. Your entire being is the self. Everything that is unfolding within the self, as the self, and is pointing to the self, meaning to happiness, to peace and happiness. And there comes a point in your contemplation where that becomes stable, where that becomes settled as what you are and what all is. And there is nothing in the world, body, mind that can shake that.
Yeah, and yeah, sounds a little bit like I could go into Buddhism or something and hear different interesting insights. But if can they actually expand on basically the thing that's interesting in like comparative paths in spirituality is what they relate to as this, as the substrate of it all, not I guess I'm just extrapolating from what you're saying. Not that there's pieces of a puzzle that would enhance the overall picture.
At some point, all the pieces of the puzzles are the puzzle is the pieces of the puzzle are all there. There are no more missing pieces to the puzzle.
The puzzle's all there. So if we hear something like a beautiful poem by Rumi or something,
it's delightful.
It just sits. It floats in the.
It's delightful. An expression, or you see a beautiful sunset, or you have a sweet conversation with a friend about. Well, it's delightful. Yeah, it's delightful. And or you just you sit and just enjoy being. It's delightful. Yes.
Yes. So that's a very subtle place right there, which I've always wondered about. So you hear the poem, or you see the sunset, and there's delight, and yet there's nothing new. It's
right. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So one could maybe. What would be a good metaphor for that? Like, the sun is shining on the entire field, on the entire forest. It's all very beautiful, right? And you're hiking, and it's all delightful. And then you come upon a peak, you're walking, and you come upon a certain panorama or something, or a waterfall, or a pond,
or a friendly porcupine,
and you go, wow, so it's delightful. But the whole thing was delightful. But when you see the porcupine, it's like there is this added delight. But there's nothing added or removed, then the porcupine walks away or whatever. And you just say, oh, wow, that was really great. That was really beautiful.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, the thing is, I guess what I'm looking at here is that there's a whole lifetime. I mean, I've been a lifetime student, I've been a lifetime want to learn all kinds of things. And it's in spirituality as well. It's just a mindset almost.
Yes.
And so I'm still find myself in these discussion groups talking, parsing out what does Buddhist emptiness mean? And then turns out there are 28 schools that have Buddhism that have different interpretations, for example.
Yes. Yes, because when you are looking at the porcupine, some people see the spines of it, some people see the cute nozzle of it, some people see his eyes, but so the various interpretations or expositions about emptiness, they're referring to the one reality, to the porcupine, one reality. Using the porcupine metaphor,
like the elephant,
yes, to the one reality, and the emptiness doesn't refer to any concept or any images of it, but the images, they allude to that which is not an image or not a concept, and that's okay, because there can be various fingers pointing to the moon. You can point with your index, or you can point with your pinky. You're still pointing to the moon, you see. And the fact that you have, as you say, you've been interested in learning, throughout your life, including the teachings of emptiness, is a certain quality of this particular body-mind, you see. Other body-minds have different, composition. And as as the teachings of emptiness become more and more clear in your life and become part of what you are,
Mhm.
they will come into your interest, which is your interest in learning and sharing and studying, and they will permeate body mind, so that your body mind will be in a way, to a certain extent, at the service of the Dharma.
Nice. Did you use the word permeate? There was
Yeah.
a little glitch. Yeah. Okay.
Permeate, yes.
Yeah. Permeate. Beautiful. Beautiful. I really appreciate this conversation.
Okay, Ananda.
Thanks.
Okay. There was a comment on YouTube by KFD. Hello, KFD. If you are listening, just reading your comment. You write, the now is timeless. Yes. When one is here now, one is present. I would say when one is here now, no one is present. Or I would say one is. Or I would say no one is. Or I would say one is presence, not present, presence. Okay, continuing with what you wrote, you write, the here and now is ever present. It's ever presence, and the eternal abode of the oneself. Yes, overall, it's, it's true. It's true. The here and now is the eternity of consciousness. And the here now refers to our absence, or to the presence of presence, or to the presence of absence. But most important is to realize that the here now is the living knowingness, beingness of happiness, peace, freedom, and happiness. The entire quote-unquote spiritual journey is about happiness, peace and happiness. Whichever way you speak it, then it doesn't matter, because you are speaking your living experience, and your living experience is expressed in whichever way you speak it. That's why it's said, the ones that have ears to hear and the ones that have eyes to see can hear and see the Dharma. Hello, Maria. Nice to see you, Maria. People, you're right, people talk about levels of consciousness or the evolution of consciousness. And I don't quite understand what that means. Is it about the level of understanding, about the truth by the body-mind? Maria, the body-mind does not understand anything about the truth or about anything. The body-mind is a perceived form. The body-mind is experienced as thoughts and sensations. Thoughts and sensations do not understand anything. They are perceptions. About the levels of consciousness, it's a misnomer. It is at least the way I use the term consciousness, I use the term consciousness to refer to reality, to refer to the self, to refer to that does not come and go, to the absolute, to the reality that perceives this perception right now. And there are no levels to consciousness. There are no evolution of consciousness. So the levels are mind levels, levels of the mind, or the evolution of the mind. Now, the mind can evolve in so many different ways. For example, the mind of a child, 2-year-old child and the mind of a 40-year-old have evolved in so many different ways. Your understanding of a certain topic can also evolve, whether it's in the physics or in the chemistry, the sciences, or in the literatures. Your understanding of a certain topic, of a certain subject, can evolve. But consciousness is non-phenomenal. It is not something that evolves. What evolves is subject to conditions, evolutionary conditions that help it to evolve. For example, the acorn evolves in the oak tree because of the earth and the rain and the sunlight that allows the acorn to evolve into the oak tree. Your philosophical understanding of Spinoza's discourses evolves as you study, their treatise. But the evolution only refers to in the realm of the phenomena, in the realm of the world, body, mind. Consciousness is not in the world, body, mind realm. Consciousness is the reality. Thank you. So I received the question, Asyama, I'll come to it in a minute. Consciousness is we're talking about the reality when we're speaking about consciousness. And if reality evolves, then it's not really reality. It's something else. So levels of consciousness they're referring by mind levels. For example, maybe you are born in a very elite society and you have no idea about people's suffering and people's starvation in some nations and needs. And somehow you learn about the suffering and the starvation of other people in other nations or the town next to you. And it affects you. You feel, oh, gee, I didn't know that. I want to help these people. So you could say that there is an evolution in not just your awareness of other people living in other nations, but also there is an evolution in that now, because of that knowledge that you have about other people's suffering, in your feelings, some feelings within you that are feelings of compassion that were dormant, now they are alive. They are brought to life. So it's at the sensation, at the feeling, and at the mind level, there is an evolution. And it's very lovely when we evolve at the world, body, mind level in feeling our connection with everybody and being more compassionate and being very helpful and being generous and kind. Actually, it is part of the teaching to treat others like your very self and to apply the principles of compassion, forgiveness, allowing, and understanding. It's part of the teaching. But this does not refer to an evolution in consciousness. it refers to an evolution in your understanding and your feeling and how you're living. Consciousness does not evolve. At some point, if you are studying the Dharma, you will come with, and you may simultaneously be engaged in various activities, very helpful activities in your life. You may still be engaged in them, but the teaching of the awakening to the emptiness of form, and also to the non-duality, non-dual reality of the self, will become predominant in your life. Maria, you're right. So the mind cannot have an understanding about the topic of consciousness or truth. No. The mind does not have an understanding. All the understanding refers to consciousness. There's only one knower, one awareness, which is the self, which is consciousness. The mind will align itself according to your love. If you are a truth lover and you are living according to truth, the mind will slowly, maybe not so slowly, align itself with the truth, will cease complaining, will cease resisting, will cease arguing, will become a quiet mind. Yes? You're right. So the mind cannot have an understanding about the topic of consciousness or truth with higher reasoning. Isn't that from the mind? No. Higher reasoning utilizes the mind. It is consciousness utilizing the mind, using the mind to contemplate truth. Let me say it again. Higher reasoning is consciousness using the mind, the reasoning aspect of the mind, to contemplate truth. Because the qualities of reasoning are part of the human capacity. And when reasoning is directed towards truth, towards awakening, towards consciousness, then it's referred to as higher reasoning. So it's the light of consciousness shining through the mind in the form of higher reasoning to come to the understanding of the self, which is to awaken from the illusion that I am something that is being experienced. Okay, Maria. So Zion Asyama, you sent a question on YouTube. Tara just gave it to me. So the question is, I want to know, how can I become myself as awareness here now? I know you always and already are, but I'm in a sense of ego and false self. How can I come back to awareness as an experience? Thank you, Zion. Well, Zion, it's good that you already know that you are awareness here now. You say, I'm in a sense of ego and false self. How can I come back to awareness? Maybe you can notice that what you call the ego or the false self arises as a thought and as a feeling. The thought about me, Zion, me tomorrow, me yesterday, or about him or her, a judgmental thought or a comparative thought. And what comes with that thought is the feeling that the unhappy feeling, the feeling of self-judgment or feeling of separation. That's what we refer to as the sense of self or the ego. But there is something else going on besides that, which is awareness. It's there, even as you are feeling this sense of separation. And the thoughts, negative thoughts or judgmental thoughts. Awareness is there. It's not removed. It's not. Okay. Yes. Even when there is a storm, there is something that is perceiving the storm. Even, yes.
This one was from KFD.
KFD, okay. Thank you. When you have, let's say in your house, you have a lot of things in your house, and somebody brings you a small plant in a small pot, and you take the plant in your pot, in the pot in your house. It makes sense for you to put it in the close to the window so it can get some sunlight, and it makes sense for you to check if the soil is too dry. You give it a little water, or you give it some nutrition, so that the plant can thrive. But it's a small plant. If you take care of it, that plant will grow. So similarly, in your experience, irrespective of what is happening, turn your attention to the fact of awareness. Awareness is there. Don't worry so much about getting rid of the personal self or the ego. Just notice there is awareness. Like that little plant that you have. Check on it every day, right? The plant, you check on it every day. You feel the soil. Is it dry? Does it need water? What does it need? Maybe there is more sun now. The weather had the different where the season, the sun now is coming from a different direction. You take care of the plant. You need to take care of turning your attention to awareness. It's there. In this very moment, you are this awareness. Awareness is, and it is what we refer to as I. The reality of your experience is awareness. It's always there. It doesn't come and go. And the more you turn your attention to it, the more you notice it, and the more it notices you, it notices itself. Don't go into battle with the ego. Don't go into battle with the feelings. Remain dispassionate about the thoughts and the feelings that arise. And turn your passion towards the reality of consciousness. It is there, available to you 24/7, waiting for you to turn your attention to it. Also, as much as you can, attend satsang. Be around the fire of truth. When a feeling arises for you to read the scriptures or to study the Dharma, do that. When a feeling comes to you to listen to a satsang online or so, do that. If these may be helpful reminders for you, there may be some pointers in them that may help you. And trust that once you love truth above everything else, truth loves you back 10 times more. The trump card is our love for truth. You are the awareness that you are looking for. And you are not the images, the sensations, and the feelings that arise for you. The reality of all mind impressions is beyond the mind, is awareness itself, which is not of the mind. And you are that. Okay, Zion, thank you for your question. KFD, you're right. Is not truth alone in silence? Is not truth alone in the here and now of silence, transcendent of the ego mind? Thank you, Magdi. Yes, you could say that truth is silence, transcendent of the ego mind. Yes, it is. It's a stillness and the vastness and the transparency and the borderlessness It's a silence that transcends the mind. A peace and a stillness that transcends the mind. The mind dissolves in that stillness, dissolves in that silence, and arises to serve the body-mind, because the world and the body require the mind, thoughts, in a harmonious way. And truth also expresses itself sometimes in words, and expresses itself as everything. But its essence, its reality is the silence and the nothingness, the emptiness of form. So out of the emptiness arises form, like out of the acorn arises the oak tree. And out of the silence arises the Dharma. The teachings arise out of silence. They are soaked in silence, and their loudest teaching is the silence. Any questions here? So, Richard, you write how to contemplate suffering. There is no suffering without a sufferer, and there is no sufferer without suffering. Okay, KFD, you're welcome. So, Richard, suffering and sufferer arise simultaneously as thoughts and, of course, feelings that have within them an opposition, and an opposition that, or a pursuit, a seeking or a resistance that seems to have a equality of life and death in it. It is sort of seeking or resistance that has in it a sense of urgency for someone. Although there is no one, although it is just thought, and thought is empty, transparent, within the resisting and the seeking thoughts, there is the reverberation, the the energetics that we feel. So, in a way, suffering are contractions within the body-mind that settle in the body over time. And they form what we refer to as the me feeling, the me impression, the personal impression, the separate self impression. So the suffering and the sufferer are a body-mind that's inhabited with various contractions that have in them a calling to be freed, to be liberated. So there is a need to understand that there isn't in actuality a sufferer. There isn't any body outside of consciousness. And of course, it's also important to understand that consciousness is transparent and is real, non-phenomenal, but is the reality of our experience. And it does not suffer. It does not know suffering. And beyond that understanding, you also need to invite the contractions within the body to expand in the true body, which is a cosmic body, which is a borderless beingness body, a formless body that is the body of light. And the breath is the universal breath, the universe breathing, but it's a universe without any borders. So that you can invite the contractions in your body. You have to sort of turn your attention as often as possible during your life, during your day, to relax and release the sensations and the contractions within your body into the vastness of the breath. And the borderless space of awareness. You don't need to go too far with your understanding about suffering and the sufferer. You don't want to sort of approach the topic with your mind, with thinking. You want to approach it with your entire being and notice the resistance and allow yourself to feel and experience whatever is arising without interfering with your thoughts about things. Remain fresh and not knowing, and transparent to whatever is arising, irrespective of what it may feel or seem to be. So that these clogged contractions within your body have a chance to liberate themselves in the space. And be watchful in your life. We may have had some tendencies in the past to engage or remain engaged or justify our involvement in situations that are unhappy. Out of habit, we continue. So we want to also it's a path of happiness, so have to look in that direction. Well, any questions?
Well, I'm back.
Yes, Ananda.
Well, just the issue about happiness, you know how they say wellness is the new model is instead of the allopathic model where you're sick and you go to the doctor, the new model, which is even being embraced a little bit by the medical community, is wellness is feeling good. It's not just not being sick. It's not just freedom from sickness. It's feeling well, you know, which is a thing in itself. So similarly, the happiness of self-nature, like Sat Chit Ananda, it's so towards the end of your answer to Richard, you're saying it sounded like you were kind of going into it's not just not suffering that you're after. There's something else. There's a whole other realm. Could you just say a little like that?
Yes. life is celebration. We focus too much on unhappiness, on suffering.
Hmm.
So my experience was not so much that of suffering, although there was that, of course. It was more like being in some sort of bubble or some sort of fog or some sort of mirage that I wasn't even aware of. And awakening is it's like the pop of the bubble, and pop, you know. It goes way beyond suffering. It is the actual, you could say, the true birth. Not the birth of the, you know, the body, you know, not, but the true birth. Somehow the path is the path of inquiry into what am I truly, what is the reality of the self, what is the reality of my experience, am I what appears, am I what thought says I am I what feelings and sensation say I am, is this what the reality is, what is the reality of my experience, what is it that is true, that is real. Somehow this contemplation leads to the awakening from the belief and the feeling that I am an object in time and space, that I am a body-mind, a mortal body-mind. And what comes as a package with that is that the sense of lack and the need, the old desires and worries and concerns and looping thoughts about me in the past and me in the future, somehow these dissolve. And what remains, I mean, what is revealed is that has always been, which is the radiance of awareness, the radiance of the self. And somehow, like, suffering is like it's not even part of the conversation, although somehow suffering plays a role in the question arising within us.
Yes, galvanizing the desire.
Yeah, what the heck is going on here? What's the way? You know, what's the path? Somehow suffering is part of the mix too. More for others and less for others. It varies, and sometimes it's a little suffering, sometimes it's a big sledgehammer suffering. But it's the self is way beyond the end of suffering. Of course, there is an awareness that, oh, well, yeah, there is no suffering. But is also the radiance, the transparency, the wisdom, the love, the beauty, the celebration, the contemplation that's just ever deepening and ever ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
Although suffering is an old memory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I would say that it's not not wellness as a feeling. So there isn't a feeling
Mm-hmm.
of well-being or wellness. It's too limited.
Interesting. You more expanded than that.
Yes.
Creation or reflection.
Yes. I don't want to make it sound mysterious because it's not, but it can't be described. It cannot be described. But I don't mean to make it sound like some mysterious thing. It's deep sleep awake. Maybe I could put it this way. It's deep sleep, but awake.
So one thing I've gotten from the conversations with you, one thing that's probably really great is that, and this is really awkward language too, it's like pop psychology, but it's like zero tolerance for reactivity to anything. But it only comes from that it only comes from that place like deep sleep. Like you have the peace of deep sleep regardless of what is. Zero acquiescence to an idea that something's wrong or whatever.
I would say that it's the end of something being wrong or something being. It's not
right.
It's
not that you're in relationship to that.
It's just the absence of that.
That's like so profound. It's impossibly profound.
At the same time, it's our natural state. It's our true nature. Is what we truly are. It's the reality of being. So it's extraordinary and it's also ordinary. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh my goodness, it's an impossibility. No, it's our true nature. Our true nature is this transparency of being. It doesn't belong to anybody. It just is. There is this transparency right now. Isn't there this transparency? Is this effortless beingness? And you can't say it belongs to Magdi or Ananda or Shiva or Maru. No, we can just sort of notice it and we realize what's noticing it is itself. It's just it has a self-noticing thing within it. It's self-noticing. maybe
from the practice level, from the idea of practicing and contemplating, it's almost like there's a tipping point, and so it's not mysterious. It's just that past a certain tipping point, the contraction is not even there, and there's no problem. Something like that.
Yeah. Your love for truth is very important, and you're loving and living truth, and not your personal feelings or your personal thoughts or your personal opinions or your person, of course that happen. Okay, we do sometimes get into our own judgments and our opinions and our positions, but then it passes, and I don't mean to dismiss that, but the love for truth and returning to the contemplation of truth, is to keep returning to the contemplation of truth and to be humble about it, to be really humble. It's not about getting it, it's just love. In love, you're not trying to get it. You just love. You recognize love for truth as your passion, and that as a true significance, you want to say, of this manifestation of this life, and to live as best you can this love, your love for truth, dedicating yourself to this love on behalf of everyone, on behalf of everybody, and on behalf of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just looped around and gave a more feeling level answer to my original question, was how do you experience yourself in life? Is it a shift that it's not really for you anymore? I think that's beautiful, because it seems like a happy way to be.
We are this one. We're so interconnected. We breathe the same air. We're communicating, meaning it's this one consciousness that's connecting us. That I say something and you get it, and I look at you and you see me, and I see you, and we're so connected in we all experiencing the same gravity, and we're all, you say, so
interesting.
So the oxygen we breathe and all of that is, I mean, that's at the body mind realm, but also we're interconnected as this consciousness. Just awareness. There are no lines, it's my awareness and your awareness. It's just open. It's borderless, edgeless, we say. So it is, so we recognize that. We say, wow, yeah. I mean, it's like, wow, yeah, it's not like the old model of I'm here, you're there, blah, blah.
Yeah. I'm not worried, so it's cool. I'll just go to the beach. I mean, sometimes I feel like that's how I live my life in a way, but then I also don't. I also have work. I get to go and,
of course,
go in with the person's dying and communicate. It's okay. Everything's okay. Somehow.
Yeah.
Don't even never use those words, really.
Right.
Or could use them maybe. But.
Right. It speaks itself through you. The more you are out of the way, the more it speaks itself through you. The more absent or the more transparent you are, the more it speaks itself through you. And you don't know how or why or whatever. It just speaks itself. And you're speaking and you're hearing. You're speaking and you're perceiving simultaneously. You hear the words as they're being spoken.
I have another thing. It's sort of a whole can of worms, but so maybe I should save it for next time. I don't know.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay. Well, yes. Hello, John.
Hi, namaste.
Namaste, John.
This suffering, or what's perceived to be suffering, I'm tonight, and as things seem to move on, as I contemplate what I truly am, it seems like something like suffering, or the mind getting into the story of suffering and say the psychology, even if there's a suffering in the body, but basically the story of that. It seems like now there's not always, but and not that there has to be always either. It's just that there's it's almost a beautiful thing that suffering appears because there's now, I could say even the mind, but the mind usually, it seems to be, my way of thinking and thought patterns have been to solve this, fix this, or now in non-duality is get back to beingness. But it's more of a, again, the mind is trying to accomplish something and get there. And now there's a sort of like it hits up against suffering. Something hits up against suffering. It's almost like there's this bounce to fall back into beingness. It's not even a trying. There's sort of a bounce to just fall back. There's a love for beingness. There's a love for self. And anyway, so and then it was more apparent tonight. And I heard somebody speak about this also, about the mind being finite, and it's always looking to solve a problem and find another one, including non-duality, and find the true self, and then the true self gets found, and then there must be something more, and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. But anyway, long story short, and maybe a question really is it seems like isn't this an experience for some where there's no longer, the mind's not involved as much, and one just falls back into their beingness because they've never really left it, but somehow there's a veil, and suffering is another one of those seeming veils that conceal who I truly am. And that's it. I'll be quiet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, although suffering has its function and its role in bringing us towards the Dharma, the contemplation of the Dharma goes way beyond that. Because no one suffers permanently. It comes in waves. Certain thoughts or certain situations may arise, and you will find yourself resisting or holding on. But then the situation changes, and you came rushing to get help from the Dharma because you were suffering, and then when the situation changes, the suffering has reduced itself, then you're back into the world until the next big wave comes, brings back to the Dharma, and back and forth. There are quite a few people who come to the Dharma because they have some particular situation. But then They come for a little while and then they're gone back into the world for another round. I mean, around a few years, many lifetimes, or it could be a month, who knows. But there is something more profound than suffering, which is this sense of nagging angst, some malaise that somehow is connected with an intuition that we have about freedom, an intuition that we have about the self, about happiness. And although in our life things may seem to be okay, that sense of incompleteness or something nagging, so, you know, it's a blessing, and in a way that has a more profound and more profound effect in bringing you to the contemplation of truth than suffering. And when you come to the Dharma with that sense of inner malaise and the intuition of truth and freedom that somehow is not clear to you, but you intuit it, I think you'll be sitting closer to the fire. And in time, you will find yourself deeper and deeper in the contemplation, and it will become your principal interest. Beyond everything else, this does not mean you don't continue to engage in whatever you're engaged in life, relationships, family, whatever, work. And yes, it is this sort of interest in truth that sort of, it starts to permeate your life, irrespective of whatever situations you're in. It becomes sort of part of your life in everything that you're doing, in a way or another, that eventually tilts the balance where you find yourself sort of drawn to beingness, just sort of, I think the word bouncing or pounding or whatever, and
Bouncing or
bouncing,
playing back into it.
Yes, into beingness, into stillness, into not knowingness.
Yes.
And the Dharma blooms within you, and the fruits, the ripening of the Dharma within you will start to manifest for you more and more in your life, and will affect and may even infect others in one way or another, even in ways that you're not aware of. And that's all of that is very lovely.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay, John. Okay, everyone. Thank you all for your company and your love.
Thank you.
We'll see you next Sunday. I think next Sunday will be 4 o'clock. Yes, but I will be announcing that. Okay. Number 4. Yeah.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank